All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast series. But the QA, of course, stands for question and answer, the most important part of this weekly podcast shenanigans that we get up to. We like to have an interactive conversation. I've got an amazing crew here already in the live chat. Lots of topics that we're going to be talking about this week. A little phone heavy this week. So we do have a bit of news in the news block, but we will be spending some time talking phones that are out, phones that are getting leaked, phones that are being announced. We're running headlong into the exciting second half of the year phone releases and strategies and manufacturing. So, really stoked to hit the ground running and just share some of these fun conversations with like-minded geeks and nerds. That's why we like to have the podcast on a Monday. We get time to sort out our feels on any news that maybe happened over the last week. Sort of not just reacting to a headline on social media. We're trying to follow these stories, and then of course, maybe some news broke over the weekend. Maybe something exciting just happened, and we're going to share it right now and talk about it right now. Amazing crew here. I'm already seeing Jimmy Fire Dragon waving hello to everybody. Um, JGJ is already planning like, oh, we've been keeping Juan longer than he needs to, LOL. Already booking time for me for a 4-hour podcast, I'm sure. Ron GKP saying, happy Monday. David Lockwood saying, hey, Juan. We got Georgie waving hello. We got Tanmay saying hello. Simon says, Hypno says, merry time zone all. We got Xperia Play 420 just with the little glowing rectangles, love. Just any place where we might be able to resurrect a community there, man. I really do miss my little subreddit, the glowing rectangle subreddit. We got You People Tech saying, Juan, hope all is well with you and your family, and thank you for asking. We'll chat just a little bit about that. I gotta brag on my daughter. H2O Taku saying good morning. We got Cesar saying good morning, Juan. Glad to see you. We got a fun crew. Michael C2 saying noise. ER1980 saying hello. Um, Simon says Hypno Red Hydrogen 2 is finally on the way. I don't know what that joke is. Okay, cool. So I hope everybody had a lovely weekend. We had kind of a whirlwind of activity here in the gadget guy household. I brag on my daughter a lot. She's becoming just a real heavy hitter little jock for a 10-year-old. Just really been exciting to watch her sort of mature and get really into a sport and like take it past. She sat us down and we had a serious conversation about her schoolwork is definitely increasing, and she's got these other after school activities, and it might be time to let an activity go because she really wants to focus on her softball and get better at softball. So maybe this semester she doesn't take dance lessons. And my wife and I are just like, who is this young lady? Like looking at a calendar and like appropriately making cuts to things that she's trying to prioritize. Like, oh my God, she was really worried about hurting our feelings because we were theater nerds. My wife and I are both theater nerds. And she's like, well, I love dance, but I really want to focus on my softball. So it was really adorable. Friday, she assessed so in fall for softball. Fall is like the player development, really low stakes. It's not the main spring season, and it's definitely not like the summer tournament season. It's the very low key. But our league does try to have a tournament team in fall just for the more advanced players to kind of keep up with more advanced skills. So last year she didn't make. She assessed, she tried out for it, but she didn't make the select team. And so she was a little in her feels about that. She takes softball pretty seriously, and she was cut. So she worked this summer and like stayed in shape and was working on drills, and like we took her out for practices and coaching and stuff like that. And so Friday was the assessment, And then we had our fall ball league and the select team, and she got on a team she really wanted for fall ball. And then we didn't hear back on select. And we were like, oh, this is going to be awful if she didn't make this team again. Because this time, like before, she was a good player, but she wasn't really working for that tournament grade. Performance in her assessment was kind of soft. This year is like, wow, she was outplaying some other kids on during the assessment, and those are all-star players. So not only was she keeping up, there were moments where you could see like, oh, she's actually doing things that are kind of advanced. That's really exciting. So we finally got the call yesterday, and it was like this cloud lifted. There was just this funk of, oh man, we haven't gotten the call that we didn't make it. They said they would call us either way, but this is past their deadline. We're starting to assume like she didn't make it. And we get the call on Sunday, and it was like all of the anxiety just lifted and clear blue skies. So my daughter jumping into a crazy tournament schedule and a regular fall ball schedule, and had to sit us down and explain to her parents why maybe some of the artistic stuff we just kind of have to put on hold for a bit. I don't know that my wife really knows what to do with this. Like, my kid's a jock. I was a band geek and a theater nerd, and my kid's a jock. I love it. Yes, Cesar, that's good. She's learning well for you and your wife, organizing herself and focusing on her main hobby. She is starting to get something that I did not figure out until high school. Like, I would never let an activity drop. Even if I started to hate it, well, I made a commitment and I had to follow through, and I'm good at this skill. I should keep doing it. And by the end of my senior year, I was in high school, I was doing like 20-hour days. And I don't remember anything from my senior year of high school. It broke something in my brain. I was just constantly on to the next thing. I never enjoyed what I finished. I'd finish something and just be relieved that it was done, and I don't want that for her. She actually came to us with this, like, kind of mature idea, and we a absolutely had to recognize she was reaching out and needing some support, and understood why it was important to us, but made a clear argument for why she probably had to let it go. And she wasn't wrong. It's pretty great. Simon says it no. In a little while, you won't be allowed to sit at her table. Already, man. It's just funny generationally too. We'll do, my dad's family has these big like Christmas get-togethers, and it used to be, like all the kids at the kids table, all the grown-ups at the grown-ups table. Now all the grown-ups are trying to sit in at the kids table, and we're like, "No, we're too cool for you now. Go sit in that grown-up table and be old and boring." These are where all the grandkids are. And we haven't done that yet. There is no grandkids table. The kids table and the grandkids all hang out together. I just think it's kind of interesting, like the generational progression of how we hang out as a family has definitely changed. Oh, Xperia Play. She'll be rocking a Letterman jacket and stuffing lockers with the band geeks soon enough. I hope she uses her powers for the forces of awesome. We'll see how it goes. So we have, I think this is going to be a really fun show. Lots of gadget news. Let's knock out a little housekeeping. I'm going to take a quick sip of water here because I'm already claggy. This is like what's going on with the heat and the temperature changes here. My sinuses have been driving me crazy, and I'm going to try and prevent that biology from hitting the microphone for your fine ears out there. I have crazy misophonia, so I'm trying to be considerate of what goes in your ear holes. So, 1 second here, quick drink of water. Then we got a couple things that we need to talk about that I published, and we're going to go on from there. Okay. So, got a couple things out last week. I'm stuck. I am proper stuck in my normal flow for producing performance coverage, because I have this phone over here, the Pixel 11, and I'm also at the same time co-producing a long-term look or longer-term look at the Vivo X300 Ultra. Kind of two products that I've got here in my gadget lab that I'm trying to say like, hey, I used it for a whole summer. So it's a little different than just the day one embargo software review. Let's talk about what's changed, what's improved. Pixel 11, Pixel 11 Pro has presented some challenges, but I'm also running into a conflict with Geekbench. And so, just as part of housekeeping, I've got an article that I'm loosely updating on the Patreon, patreon.com/somegadgetguy. And it's titled Pixel 11 Pro Day One, What My Pixel Can't Do, but then I've been updating it. And the first major update at the end, I hate Geekbench. I did not realize, this is how good I am at tech. So sit down. All the things I don't know. This is going to be a long podcast. I did not realize that Geekbench 6 was going to be deprecated. For everyone in here and anyone who might be listening, Geekbench is a testing synthetic benchmarking tool. And what we mean by that is it takes little snippets of processes and it times the completion or it measures the output of each little process. And then it tries to sum up those scores into one big number score that should be loosely comparable with other devices. I hate synthetic benchmarks. I don't feel they properly predict real world performance. So let's say this phone outscores this phone in Geekbench. There are situations where this phone might perform a real task in a real app faster than this phone. And I use Geekbench as a way to shortcut parts of that conversation. So in I do a series on the Patreon called By the Benchmarks. And I start with Geekbench scores, but then I want you to see, look at how these phones ranked in Geekbench, and now look at how these phones rank when I really try to do an edit in LumaFusion. Look how these phones rank when I really try to do a podcast in Audio Evolution. Look at how these phones rank when I try to do something basic like file compression. And those kinds of things are all sort of elements of real world applications. You might not use RAR file compression on your phone to make a little folder of compressed files, but anytime your phone compresses an image to send it over an RCS message, that is an aspect of file compression. There are some phones you push share, and it takes a little while before you can really share the image. It's because your phone sucks at file compression. There's that feeling like, oh, iPhones are so smooth and they go so fast. They're actually really slow at a lot of those tasks, but they mask that with lots of pretty animations and stuff. The performance really isn't as good as the presentation. So Geekbench 7 is now the only Geekbench you can get, which means all of my older Geekbench 6 scores are irrelevant. So if I'm going to show Pixel 11 Pro and show, hey, this is where it ranked for Geekbench, this is how it compares to other phones, it means I have to retest all of those other phones using Geekbench 7. I didn't realize that this hard line was happening, that the deprecation of Geekbench 6 means that it's no longer available in the Play Store to new phones, and that we're just moving forward with Geekbench 7. I thought there would be a bit more time, a bit more overlap. So now, just to show you how irrelevant Geekbench 7 scores are, I have to spend a lot of time testing in Geekbench 7, and it's really making me sad. I'm bringing that up because it's insane to me. I do I have? I don't think I've got it pulled up. Let me see if it's still, because I have started testing phones on Geekbench 7, but I just want to see. I think I'm going to have to reload the spreadsheet. I can't screen share it, but it's things that are driving me crazy. Like, okay, so in how I just don't believe that Geekbench 7 is giving us a good measure to predict other performance. Uh, it's right over. Let me just get it so that I've got the props and we can like hold this kind of stuff up. I hate it when I'm like running around being off camera and doing silly things for the podcast. So My single core CPU performance score for the OnePlus 15 was 1,738 Geekbench points. More Geekbench points means more performance. So then I went and tested the CPU performance on my Pixel 9 Pro XL so I could show some generational differences in pixel and tensor performance. And the Pixel 9 Pro XL scored 1,714 points. Now, I did my Pixel 10 Pro as a trade-in, but before I sent it in as a trade-in, I got 2,014 as the single-core CPU score for the Pixel 10 Pro. In no world, in no universe does the Pixel 9 Pro CPU hang with the CPU in the OnePlus 15. In no universe is the Pixel 10 Pro CPU more powerful than the CPU on the OnePlus 15. That is ludicrous to suggest. It completely misrepresents the real world performance of what the chips in these phones can do. And now you're going to have a bunch of people just like, oh, well, I mean, the Geekbench score was higher, and you need the one with more Geekbench points. I need more Geekbench points. Another one that just completely blew me away. My OnePlus Pad 3 has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, only scored 900 in maximum boost mode, which does juice up a lot of the performance on that tablet. Completely failed. Completely failed. And then there was another phone, I don't have it up here on this chart right now. There was another phone that scored like 500 points because the task just failed. Yeah, we couldn't complete the task, so you get a score that's like a quarter what it would really put out. So when I say this, I don't just have a feeling that this phone should be more powerful, and now I'm just salty that it wasn't true. Geekbench says the Pixel 9 Pro and the OnePlus 15 should be nearly identical in CPU performance, in single core, the biggest, fastest core from here versus the biggest, fastest core from here. But there are other apps that can test that kind of stuff synthetically too. So I fired up RAR because RAR gives me a benchmark where I can isolate a single CPU core. When you know it, there's like a 50% performance advantage in CPU performance here, and it maintains longer. So if you run the RAR benchmark for more than a minute, this falls off a cliff. This just gets a little slower. I am so frustrated because now it makes my job so much more difficult. And I'm going to point out to something here too, where I can go through and show all of my work and it's still going to be disregarded because, well, I mean, everybody uses Geekbench scores. Everyone knows the Antutu points. You need like 3 billion Antutu points and that makes the phone better. Like, none of this would be acceptable if you went to a laptop reviewer. And it's driving me crazy because our society is becoming primarily phone first. And there are parts of the world where literally the only computer someone might be able to own is a phone. There are hundreds of millions of people around the planet that are phone only. And the next 500 million internet users that start getting online are going to be phone only before they become phone first and before they have good access to better laptops and desktops. And it matters that we properly categorize what these performance differences look like. And our tools for this synthetic testing seem to be getting even more inconsistent. It is galling to see how wild these scores can arrive based on the optimization for the app. It has almost nothing to do. Like when you put a real app on your phone, Geekbench has almost nothing to do with predicting whether or not your phone really will complete those tasks better, faster, more efficiently. So moving on, moving on with housekeeping. From Uncle Lau, is there any old LG phones you've tried? Thanks. I haven't gone that far back. I'm just trying to at least get the last 2 or 3 years examples. Like I want an example of an 8 Gen 3. I want an example of an 8 Gen 5. Like I want an 8 Gen 5 and an 8 Gen 5 Elite. You know, I'm trying to find just like a Dimensity 8400, a Dimensity 9400, 9500. I'm just trying to keep like a little block so you can kind of see over the next couple years. But I'm doing all of this work literally just to show you how these scores are completely unreliable and kind of useless. Um, I don't know. It's just it's just a lot. It burns you out. It's exhausting to kind of keep up with all this. So moving on from housekeeping, sort of, because we're gonna tie that idea back. I the Pixel 11 progress is going to be slow. I am still going to do a by the benchmarks. I've done the other real world app tests. I'm hoping maybe tomorrow or Wednesday I'll have that article written so that you can see like how the Pixel performs for video editing, how it performs for audio processing, stuff like that. I've only had one minor goof in LumaFusion for an older project file that wouldn't load, and I genuinely don't know that that's the Pixel's fault. So there is some acceptable news. It's not all bad news. But I think you can tell by my tone where I'm already kind of classifying Pixel performance and where I have expectations for it. The other video that I got out, I was really stoked to finally show this off. I've been mentioning this for a little bit, but the 8849 Tank 5 Pro rugged phone review, one important update. I love big, dumb, clumsy internet appliance gadgets like the Tank phones. I love rugged. I still have my old G-Tac convertible laptop. Like, there's something so satisfying and mechanical about rugged gear and the way that you can replace parts on it and the extra features you get for the bulk. And the Tank 5 Pro brings one very critical feature that other previous Tank phones have lacked. And it's something that you're actually going to see in future videos that I produce because it's a much better way to test for some of the phone performance by having this feature on the Tank phone. I'll be using the Tank 5 Pro to help review other phones and gadgets, which is pretty cool. Then the last major thing that I got out was an article written on, but I mean, I published it on both patreon.com, but also it went public on somegadgetguy.com. No, Pixel 11 Pro does not take better close-up photos than the Pixel 10 Pro. And so there was this this run of not exactly rumors, but as soon as Pixel 11 Pro started showing up in people's hands, someone posted this excited post on Reddit that the close-up photo performance of the 11 Pro was so much better, so much improved. So there's this Reddit post from a Pixel fan. Articles started popping up on sites like Android Police and Android Authority. Oh, Google didn't even tell us about this massive camera upgrade. The telephoto camera on the Pixel 11 Pro takes much better close-up photos. And so I'm looking at it like that would be a really cool upgrade if the performance from the 11 Pro was better than the 10 Pro. Well, come to find out, the person who posted that Reddit post was upgrading from a 9 Pro to an 11 Pro. And the minimum focusing distance for close-up photos, for macro photos on the 9 Pro was really far. I want to say it was like 50 centimeters. The Pixel 10 Pro improved that focusing distance to somewhere around 30 centimeters. And the Pixel 11 Pro is basically the same as the Pixel 10 Pro. So there are all these articles like, oh, this is a major upgrade, and oh, photography fans, and oh, you can do these close-up photos. And that's not actually an upgrade on the Pixel 11 Pro. In fact, because of the sensor size differences, wouldn't you know it, like so many things that have been happening in Pixel land lately, the Pixel 11 Pro is actually a little worse than the Pixel 10 Pro if you like to take photos of things close up. And this is one of those, again, it's one of those features that you don't know how cool it is to have until you've seen it done really well. So like Xiaomi, Vivo, Oppo are all including much closer focusing lenses on bigger telephoto sensors. So I wrote up an article. No, Pixel 11 Pro does not take better close-up photos than the Pixel 10 Pro. And it's a long article. Like, here's an example of ultra wide macro performance versus telephoto macro performance. Here's my sort of one-handed measurement, just loosely demonstrating how far away the pixels were and being able to close focus. I have this cute little plastic Godzilla head that I use to show like close-up detail. I've got some comparison shots showing the side by side where the Pixel 11 Pro is actually not better at a close-up photo than the Pixel 10 Pro. I've got diagrams showing what the relative sensor sizes are between a Vivo telephoto and a Pixel telephoto. Anyone who's out there saying like, oh, it's just amazing. Didn't you know the Pixel 11 Pro's telephoto sensor is so much bigger than the Pixel 10's? Like, it's going to make the photo so much better. Well, this is the relative sensor size. So the pink square, the pink rectangle is the Pixel 10 Pro telephoto, and the orange rectangle is the Pixel 11 Pro, and it's a little bigger. And then you look at the Vivo X300's telephoto, and that's massive. That is a substantial difference. So after I got done sort of disproving the myth of the Pixel 11 Pro being better at close-up photos, I then showed, well, this is what the difference is when you look at a Vivo telephoto versus a Pixel telephoto. And also, the Vivo telephoto can crop way more before it matches the sensor performance of the 11 Pro. So it's almost like you get a bunch of extra zoom before you've matched the quality of the Pixel 11. And then from there, the Pixel 11 and the Vivo X300 crop equally, but the Vivo will have more reach as you cut away information from the sensor from there. So it's just, there is no, by no metric has the Pixel 11 Pro telephoto really gotten better than the competition. And in features like close focus and taking, photos of close, little details close up, it's actually gotten worse than the previous generation. So I don't know. I want to say this article is like at least 1,500 words, maybe 2,000 words. Oh, maybe it's not that long, but it's a pretty long article. Like, this would have been an 8-minute video on its own, broken into two halves, at least 4 minutes comparing Pixel 11 and Pixel 10, and then another 4 minutes just saying, looking at the competition, this is how far behind Pixel really is. And I was actually kind of surprised. Someone hit me up on Discord and said, hey, someone shared your article on Reddit, which is wild to me because for years, my stuff, my videos, my editorials would just would just be automatically removed from Reddit. If anyone else shared a video or an article of mine, the Reddit moderators would accuse them of being alternate accounts from me and just remove and block people from being able to use our Android on Reddit. So they shared it, and I'm like, I shouldn't peek in. I'm persona non grata there. They hate me just on principle. I actively tried to remove posts from our Android just because I hate when the tone of the comments changes. You can tell, like, when one of my videos has made it through to Reddit, that like the real hateful nerds come out and just start talking trash about how much they don't like my tone and how I'm an idiot. And surprisingly, there was some pretty decent like back and forth just talking about the data that I shared here and some other people's experiences. But of course, like, you immediately run into stuff like this. Hold on, do I have it? I don't know if this will screen share well. Yeah, so from one of the comments posted, I'm supposed to automatically believe some gadget guy. From what I have seen, the 5X on the 11 Pro can take better photos up close. And you're like, that's what I get to deal with when someone decides that their feelings on this are better than me writing 1,500 words showing photos and samples and just automatically believe him. Would you just automatically believe him? I read the headline of his article. I'm just supposed to believe him? So there's zero incentive for me to go back and contribute or participate on Reddit. Every time I feel like, well, maybe, I don't know, I kind of miss my glowing rectangles community. I like actually digging into the nuts and bolts of this kind of stuff, maybe there are some nerds there that would like to. Oh no, 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 no. That's right. That's who I am on Reddit. The guy who you would just automatically believe made something up. So there we go. I guess I won't be doing that R Android AMA anytime soon. And also, by the way, I appreciate it. Like, I always say, hey, you should go out there, support your favorite content creators and stuff. I'm just gonna ask, like, I don't need you to send me a link on Reddit of people just trash talking me. As much as I love seeing stuff get shared, I genuinely do want to be in active conversations. And if the share is just, I hate this guy and he's mean and his tone sucks and he makes good points, but he's so critical and he makes fun of other reviewers, you don't need to send me that. You can let that go. I don't need the extra baggage. I spend so much time weeding out low effort hate comments on my YouTube anyway. You don't need to send me a Reddit link where it's just going to be abuse. Let them let them abuse me. Anything for more traffic, I guess, but I'll just spend my time weeding this kind of junk out on YouTube and on my personal blog. I don't need to go seeking it out anywhere else. So it's pretty great. For Ron GKP, I guess you are persona a little bit of Grata. I guess. I You know what? Maybe it's just better when I was persona non grata. They don't care about this kind of data, so why try to send them better data? Anyway, so that's housekeeping in a nutshell. I'm focused way more on my daughter's softball career than I am on my own tech channel. Let me tell you, it feels a lot better watching her hit like 60-mile-an-hour fastballs. Everything we're going to be talking about this week is going to be available on somegadgetguy.com. All of the links and show notes, not the Reddit link. I'm not going to post that. Why would I engage with that kind of commentary? But everything else. So links, show notes, housekeeping, everything will be on somegadgetguy.com for the weekly blog post there. Then, of course, there's going to be the cleaned up audio version of the podcast for the replay crew on patreon.com/somegadgetguy. And of course, as always, greatly appreciate people who are sharing the links, bringing more people to the channel, reviewing podcasts on podcast apps. If it's Spotify, if it's Apple, if it's Google, or if it's any of the other like Podcast Republic or Podcast Addict, clicking some stars that helps just kind of support for folks who maybe can't contribute directly to the Patreon. Every little bit of effort helps tremendously, and we definitely appreciate all the people that are supporting and contributing. You're joining right now in the live chat. Love it. These are the kinds of conversations I live for, because we can get a little messier and deeper into actual conversations and not just talk about how much I suck. So it's pretty great. Here, let me jump in here. We're going to start with, there's some FCC news. You know how I get about FCC news, and especially when it's reported on by my man crush, John Brodkin, over at Ars Technica. I'm going to screen share this. Boy, howdy. FCC abolishes gigabit speed goal, suggesting it is unfair to slower technologies. The Federal Communications Commission last week eliminated the gigabit speed goal established during the Biden administration and declared that current levels of broadband deployment in the U.S. are acceptable. Though fiber networks have routinely offered such speeds for years, the FCC said the gigabit speed goal is not, quote, technologically neutral, end quote, suggesting that it isn't fair to other slower technologies. Now, I like picking on conservatives. We had a government commission saying we need to be more competitive globally. We need better technologies and better infrastructure, not just for consumer habits. Remember, some of the first aggressive rollout of fiber and gigabit broadband was actually supported by the Department of Energy. I'm sure many people in this chat have read some of these stories, articles, or seen headlines about how America's infrastructure and their electricity grid are incredibly antiquated and highly susceptible to an outside attack. So how do we improve our energy usage and make these things better? Is by improving our data connections and our data infrastructure. And one of the best ways to do that is fulfill the fiber to home goals that we've been hearing about since the early aughts. If you don't remember, we've been attaching fees for network infrastructure. We've been giving a broadband and cell phone carriers sweetheart deals, zoning, lower taxes, better. We pay for the infrastructure, but they get to profit from it. The Broadband Alliance actively lobbies our government for more money for infrastructure, but they're not responsible for any of the costs. Taxpayers are responsible for all the costs in improving infrastructure, but they get all the profit. And we've been letting them do this for years. So I don't know if you all remember, but in the last year of the Biden administration, I asked everyone on this podcast to send a message to your local elected representatives and also to the FCC. The FCC was working on a new classification for broadband. You could not call something high speed unless it met this criteria. Democrats proposed 100 megabit per second duplex. You needed to have a matched 100 up, 100 down, or you could not call your product high-speed broadband. The previous commitment, I want to say, was something ridiculous, like 30 up, 10 down. It wasn't exactly that, but it was something so laughably slow. In the 21st century, no one would call it high-speed broadband. Like, I think the previous speed ratings for calling something high speed were based on DSL broadband connections. So I asked everybody to write messages, letters, support 100 up, 100 down, because that would have put and lit a fire under the butts of cable broadband suppliers. Cable broadband loves advertising. You can get gigabit fiber-backed broadband. It's fiber until it's not, and it is not fiber to your home. And they've played all of these tricks with cable broadband where you can get gigabit downloads, but your upload speeds are still probably only going to be about 20 meg, which is horrifically slow. In a 21st century economy, that is disastrously slow. Every single time you think, oh, I've got to back up to the cloud, or I want to, share larger files, or you have to sit there and do the math like, yeah, I'd love to send someone this video. I guess I have to reduce it to potato quality because me trying to upload it over my cable broadband connection is going to take hours to upload. Let me tell you, running a YouTube channel where even uploading 1080p video and I have to sit there and watch it go, not great. Real not good. Very not good. So I was so disappointed in the FCC under the Biden administration because then they let the carriers and the broadband providers say their piece. And ultimately, they decided to give a sweetheart deal to cable broadband. So what classifies as high speed in the United States is now, I believe, 100 megabit down, but only 20 meg up, which is exactly what cable already provided. So there was no benefit to reclassifying broadband because there was no incentive to actually improve what was already being offered. 100 up and down would have been a 5-time improvement to the actual speeds. And just try and get good information from your broadband supplier. If you're on fiber, they are happy to tell you what the upload speeds are. If you're on cable or DSL, oh, you've got gigabit downloads. Well, how fast are the uploads? It's not on our website. We don't have to tell you that. So all this time, there was the sweetheart deal from the Biden administration FCC to basically keep cable the same as it ever was, to keep broadband, excuse me, the same general speeds, because they could always offer faster downloads. You can always go asymmetrical. Cable broadband was built on consuming, not contributing. So it was always built asymmetrically. But the one thing the Biden administration's FCC did well was put in these guidelines and this framework to say, by this year, we expect fiber to home to be a bigger initiative and to be reaching more communities. These are our expectations. So again, voting conservative means that's all been thrown out the window now. You want better and more competitive options to supply internet access to your home? Well, you voted conservative. This is the garbage you get. They're saying it is prejudicial and unfair to an industry, including companies like Comcast, that the insane profits they make on us paying for their infrastructure, it's not fair. They would have to take the word high speed off their broadband. It's not fair to them. We need to be fair to industries that actively create monopolies in their regions so that they don't ever have to compete, and we still have to keep giving them more money for fees, and we still have to keep giving them more money in tax dollars, and we still have to keep giving them preferential treatment and zoning practices that push out competitors, and they still can't increase the quality of their product because that would cost them a little more money. And so they would make less profit. And this is what I mean. We saw it happening during the first Trump administration where Ajit Pai was the head of the FCC. Regulatory capture. You put some stooge in the FCC who's basically just going to roll over for all the business concerns. That is the opposite of what the FCC should be doing. The FCC should be looking at how to improve the situation of citizens in this country. And instead, we've got to be fair to Comcast. So I feel it's a little broken. Oh, it's so annoying. So anyway, if you were hoping that there would be any kind of push for a fiber initiative in your locale, it's probably not going to happen now. It's pretty great. I'm also going to say it won't matter with this FCC, but start supporting local initiatives. Start looking up if there are broadband co-ops. Maybe you can do business with a smaller company. It might mean less reliable internet access, but you're not giving your money to, Comcast or Spectrum. Start looking at other alternatives. If you've got good line of sight to a cell tower, maybe you can sacrifice some download speed for better upload speeds. If you've got a 5G to home solution. I tried it here. Unfortunately, the hills around our area just make that very, very inconsistent. And we couldn't stick with Verizon or T-Mobile for their 5G to home service. But start looking at the local politics scene. I'm going to start looking up information on what it might mean to start a broadband co-op. I don't think I can pull this off, but I would love to go to all of the little condo owners in our little condo association and say, what if we just had condo broadband? And so it would go into our HOA fees, and we would be responsible for up to this point in terms of the cable management. We're right across the street from a high school, so running the lines shouldn't be incredibly difficult, and we could use that as some community goodwill and supporting the high school and the high school supporting us, and then we would just have to pay for maintenance, and and depending on who joins, maybe we could create a little buffer so there's some money to help with other condo renovations and stuff like that. Maybe it's just time to I would have to stop making YouTube videos, but maybe I just need to be a broadband co-op administrator. maybe that's my job. I've been looking at what do I do after I grow up and I stop making YouTube videos, and maybe it's I'm the guy who walks over and helps dig a trench so that we can lay some fiber so we can finally get 21st century broadband here in the suburbs. I hate it so much. That's great. Moving right along. This story written up by Peter over at GSM Arena. Epic Games thinks that Apple's new EU App Store rules still violate the Digital Markets Act. The European Commission may be happy with Apple's new App Store rules, but Epic Games sure isn't. The Fortnite developer and proprietor of one of the largest game stores thinks that Apple's changes still violate the Digital Markets Act. The Irish Independent posted quotes from a European Commission spokesperson, quote, "The Commission welcomes Apple's changes to their business terms, which follow a close dialogue between the Commission and Apple after the Commission issued a non-compliance decision related to Apple's steering terms, as well as preliminary findings related to alternative app distribution, both in April 2025. Epic, however, disagrees. In a post on Twitter, the law makes it clear that Apple must allow developers to offer links outside. The law makes it clear that Apple must allow developers to offer link out to the web for purchases free of charge and has to allow effective use of competing stores. Apple's terms deliberately violate the Digital Markets Act. If the Commission accepts the terms and drops their ongoing enforcement actions, the law will become meaningless and consumers and developers will not experience the benefits it was designed to provide. And this is all going hand in hand with how we've been talking about how stupid Apple's malicious compliance of these rules has been. Because they're still advocating for, we will have this app. You can install this app on your iPhone. In the app, you have the option to go with Apple's payment service or to use some alternative payment service. And Apple is saying we should still get a cut of using an alternative payment service, which is defying the whole reason of having alternative payments, which is what Epic has been fighting this entire time. And here in the United States, we saw that play out where the judge immediately savaged Tim Cook and Apple executives for absolutely betraying the court's orders on creating this new system. But of course, Apple can spend millions of dollars lobbying for billions of dollars in revenue, right? So politicians who are easily bought off for thousands of dollars in campaign contributions, lobbying, encouraging healthy debate by throwing money around. Now we're still actively debating what this should mean because Apple's got deep pockets. But at some point, if this goes through for the EU, that is disastrous precedent for this kind of conversation. Apple provides no value to all of these platforms that are being forced to include Apple in their payments and give Apple a cut simply to have access to people who use the iPhone. And so the whole point of trying to create these alternatives, these other platforms and these stores is to offer actual competition to what is a completely locked up and monopolistic business practice that is bad for developers and it's bad for consumers. And again, would be for me further proof that Tim Cook absolutely perjured himself when he was testifying before a House Judicial Committee who asked him point blank about Apple's bullying behavior. And Tim Cook said, "No, we don't bully people." So what we thought was going to be like a court case that played out over a couple of years is now going like years deep on appeals and now international lawsuits as well. So we should definitely continue to keep an eye on this because we're so close to seeing some positive movement, and not just for iPhone owners. This also helps set precedent for Google Play too, where Google Play's recent changes to the Play Store and to Android have made sideloading, installing software on the computer that you own more difficult. And we know they're doing that because any kind of speed bump or pain point is going to dissuade people from even trying. It takes so little for someone to kind of dig into their phone a little deeper, run into the most minor roadblock and go, "You know what, this is too complicated. I'm just going to get the app from Google." That's bad for developers. That's bad for consumers. We need to make it abundantly clear that installing software on a computer you own is not hacking the mainframe. And we need consumers to be a bit more comfortable looking at, like, well, I could buy this game on Google, but what if I could buy this game on Steam? To me, that becomes like, when this gets sorted, that becomes one of the biggest benefits. Knowing that Valve is actively working on Linux gaming, is actively working on ARM compatibility for PC games. And people complain about the quality of Android games, right? Well, what if that wasn't an issue? And you could just go to the Steam store and say, hey, I want Wild Blue Skies. It's the one I just showed off in my short. And you go, cool. And you buy Wild Blue Skies. And then you pick up your phone and go, install. And then you're like, cool, it installed. And then you just play the PC game that you bought on Steam directly on your phone. Don't you think a lot of people would be into that? I know a lot of people would really like that. And I keep showing emulation and people go, oh yeah, but I mean, tinkering and hacking and, oh, you got to do turnips and fexes and stuff. And you're like, no, I bought Wild Blue Skies and then I opened up an app and I said install, and it took a little while. It took a little longer than installing through Google Play, but then I just played the game. I didn't like tinker with anything. I didn't have to turn up my fex at all. So anyway, yeah, Brian Glaze. I mean, by design, Brian Glaze says people are so tech illiterate, and then he laughs, hacking the mainframe. But that's what this predatory language was designed to do. As soon as we started saying side loading, you're coming at this sideways. You're doing something that maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. It's really frustrating. So anyway, continued news as the story develops, as this fight between Epic and Apple has been going on, I mean, for what, a decade now? I don't know. It is a lot. In other Apple news, this one actually kind of caught me by surprise, because this is a story we don't hear as often from this company. And just to show you how trends have changed and how tough the tech job market is right now. Let me screen share this here. This is written up by Chance Miller over at 9to5Mac. Apple lays off over 200 people across the Vision Pro and Siri teams. In a statement, an Apple spokesperson said the changes were made to evolve our business to deliver the best experiences for our users. Quote, while we will create new roles, excuse me, while we will create new roles as part of this change, it will also impact a limited number of existing roles. We are grateful to these team members for their contributions, and we are committed to supporting them throughout their transition, including opportunities to apply for other roles at Apple. Now, this isn't very many people. We just recently saw Microsoft and the Xbox division talking about some incredible goals and the personnel cutting. We've seen game studios, we've seen other tech corporations, like thousands of people at the drop of a hat. But one of the things I think Apple has earned a positive reputation for, and please feel free to disagree with me in the chat if maybe you think I'm off here, but I feel Apple has built a reputation that is slightly more like Nintendo's. So we were just saying, lots of jobs were just cut across Microsoft and Xbox and game studios. Nintendo is still a corporation. They are still corporate. They want to make the most possible money they can on their products and services. There's nothing friendly or benign. It's a corporation. It's not a family, it's a corporation. But I think historically, Nintendo has done a much better job of weathering some of the worst market downturns and holding on to talent that helps maintain institutional knowledge. What makes Nintendo feel like Nintendo is a consistency in the people who work for Nintendo. And I think For as many of the corporate gripes and frustrations and criticisms that I can throw at Nintendo, their litigious nature, the sort of position, the marketing, everything that I would criticize Nintendo for, one of the things that I do appreciate is there is a Nintendo feel, and that Nintendo feel is maintained by the people who work for Nintendo. I think Apple is very similar. There is an Apple feel, and there is an Apple awareness and knowledge internal in that company. And it takes a lot for Apple to just cut people working on specific sectors of their business. When we see that happen, that is a big public announcement of Apple's commitment to that tier or to that market. What do we know about Apple's current business strategies? They're using Gemini for improved AI capabilities. Siri really hasn't been getting it done. It's time to pull that Band-Aid off, reallocate resources, and move some people around. Siri people are getting cut. What do we know about Apple's current business trajectory? Man, Vision Pro did not do anything in this market. This like Tim Cook new product to revolutionize how we interact with data and services and to make a computer fit on your face. That wasn't it. 13 years after Google Glass, Apple delivered a mixed reality headset. No confidence in the market for that. None at all. So, Vision Pro teams getting cut. To me, that speaks to Apple's long-term outlook and long-term strategy on those markets. Not viable. Those are dead ends for Apple R&D, and that's why they might be scaling back. I think it matters a lot more when we hear about an Apple layoff, because I think that will help us predict what future products and services might we see from Apple. So when Apple comes out with glasses, they're not going to be fancy AR glasses with a whole bunch of holograms and visual accents and, interacting with the environment around you. They're probably just going to crib Meta. They're probably just going to be camera glasses that help you creep on people, and then you just talk to them with speakers and you get AI in your ears instead of something cooler or better with an optical layer to it. They'll probably just copy what's already been successful for Facebook in making gross stalker camera glasses, because Apple really doesn't seem to be on any kind of trend where they're coming out with something new. So it's just disappointing, because if Vision Pro had been properly positioned as a quiet, smaller, lower expectation dev kit, maybe some of this AR stuff would be making their way into an optical product. But we keep the stop-start going. Like Google does something, we surge for a little bit, then it dies. And then Microsoft does HoloLens for a little bit, and then it dies. And then Apple does Vision Pro for a little bit, and then it dies. And instead, all this time, you could have been playing with just a cool pair of sunglasses that put your notifications up at eye level. I can't tell you how awesome it is. I'm driving around town. I don't have to look at like a screen on my dashboard, or I have to find like my phone is connected to a CarPlay or something like that. I just get an arrow that says in 4 miles, turn right. And it's out floating in space in front of me, out by my windshield. It is so nice. You could have had that 13 years ago. So the second best time to get it would be today. So in this tech landscape, I'm not trying to make light of the people whose jobs were just cut. I definitely appreciate, and it's tough, and I feel for you, and I hope the people that are affected by this, just like every other massive layoff that we've seen from these other tech companies, it's getting really dark. But I feel the executive decisions need to be scrutinized higher. They need to be more vocally examined. They need to actually report to shareholders. Oh, these outlooks and this capex and all this and our revenue and our profits. No, it's got to be more than that. This is not good. Apple could have invented something new. Instead, they just tried to copy what other companies had already done. That to me should speak of a crisis of leadership, a lack of vision, and those are the death knells for other companies, right? Well, even if you're one of the most profitable companies on the planet, that scrutiny would help. So I don't know. From Team Rye. The face when you realize that the Nintendo Labo sold more than the Vision Pro. I mean, I'm not surprised because it's a lot less expensive getting a cardboard for Nintendo. Um, from Tanmay, I hope Valve is still in the VR game after this RAM shortage situation. I am super anxious about Steam Frame. I've kept like padding my budget a little bit here, a little bit there. For a while, it was like I don't think I'll spend over 1,000. Then it was I don't think I'll spend over 1,500. I'm now actively thinking like I might need to hit 2 grand. That is so stupid. It is so stupid for a VR headset, but this is the one that I've been wanting to support. I refuse to give Facebook money to spy on my life through a VR headset. And HTC seems dead in the water. I reached out to HTC a while ago and like got this really kind of terse like we're not looking for other influencers. And you're like, all right, cool. I think you have a really good product and other people just want to review your product to talk about how it's too expensive and you're rolling over for that. Okay. So if anyone from HTC, if you want, someone can clip this and send this to someone who is a PR rep at HTC. I'd still like to talk about, offering an alternative to the Oculus, and the hardware looks good. I don't know. It's silly to me, but I'm super anxious about what's going to happen once Steam Frame is available. I know it's going to be way too much. It's going to be one of those things. I purposely overspent on my Surface Laptop 7. There was no need for me to buy a $2,000 laptop for testing the Snapdragon chip. I didn't really need the 64 gigabytes of RAM, but now I'm happy that I have it. That was silly. I'm going to have to do something silly for Steam Frame, and that makes me really anxious because the gadget budget isn't going nearly as far as it used to as in years past. Just a quick follow-up. I'm not going to dig too deep into this. This is another one from Ars Technica, written up by Ashley Bellinger. We've been following this up. I would heartily appreciate folks going back and catching that interview I did with Whitney Ray DeBona, lawyer from Drug Watch. She did an incredible job of breaking down what the landscape looks like for the hundreds of lawsuits that Roblox is now facing, and we're seeing this reflected now. Their stock price took a small hit. Their revenue, the reputation has definitely taken a hit, and now we're starting to see more of these follow-up stories. Roblox must make changes after failing to block adults creeping on kids. Suspecting that Roblox may not be doing enough to stop child exploitation, eSafety conducted testing earlier this year that flagged alarming gaps in Roblox safeguards. The agency found that adult strangers could still send connection requests to kids whose, quote, profiles and biographies, including account names, number, and names of connections, avatar images, and non-sensitive biographical information, such as their interests, were visible to anyone on the Roblox platform with no option to restrict the visibility of this information. So this is one of those things, like I complain about parents around me, how not tech savvy they are, how out of the loop they are with gaming, how reluctant they are to join their kids' activities. Like, play a game with your kids. Why do you hate your kids? They like games, play a game with them. My daughter is all about Minecraft. Do you know how mind-numbingly boring it is to sit next to her and just watch her build? But like, she appreciates that. And we talk about like what she's building, and maybe I can offer some suggestions that she'll ignore for the construction of some kind of castle that she's making. But like, my parents did that. I don't understand. People my age grew up with things like Nintendos and Super Nintendos and PlayStations and Sega Genesises. And now I'm talking to these same people like, do you play any of these games with your kid? Oh, well, I don't, and I don't want to. Fortnite's, Roblox, Minecraft's, blah, 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 blah. They're like, okay. I mean, I was at a softball get together, like, I want to say it was like a year and a half ago. And like, I blew this woman's mind because she was so concerned about what her kids were playing on their iPads. We're talking like 10-year-olds here. And you're like, well, why don't you just play the game with them? And it was like the thought had never crossed her mind that she could just pick up a video game and play it. What are we doing? I don't get it at all. So, just as a way to keep an eye on, we need to watch what further fallout happens with Roblox. The steeper it drops and the more it falls, the happier I'll be. Because just the mission of Roblox, in addition to other social media companies, has just become incredibly toxic and horrific. And these are the kinds of market corrections that this industry absolutely needs. Ah. Oh, Zimfad, I know. It's wild still to me that Carmack left id Software to work for Facebook Gaming, insane of all companies to work on VR games for. But remember, when he did that, Facebook was still the deep pockets on Metaverse. So as horrifically stupid as that was, like again, it's the quippy little thing you'll see on like Instagram or Reddit or other social media. I saw it on Blue Sky like a week ago. Don't forget that the people who are trying to sell you AI today were the people who told you that NFTs and pictures of monkeys would be valuable yesterday. And you're like, yeah, it's got a point, but money talks, right? So Carmack was like, where's the next generation of experiences going to come from? Well, $80 billion went into metaverse. He wanted his cut, man. When Zuckerberg walks up and hands you the bag, some dudes are going to take the bag. Dudes like Lucky Palmer got kicked out. You got to be savvy enough to know, like, hey, I'm going to take this cash, and then he's probably going to screw me over somehow. But, if you get the bag, get the bag. Michael C2. Everybody hates AI, except for like the 2% of the public that owns all the money. It's great. Oh, Team Fry. But games are for kids. And we've been dealing with that since I was a little kid. Man, I didn't realize, I didn't clock growing up that like my family, I guess, was super atypical because my parents were all about going to arcades. I watched the movie Tron like it was a documentary. Here are these hip, young, like late teens, early 20s folks hanging out in a video game arcade, trying to get top scores. That was my folks. They were all about pinball. My dad was into Joust. My mom was into Tempest. Like they played games. I would sit in our living room firing up an Atari or firing up a Nintendo, and like my mom would be in line for a turn. Like got a little brother. We're fighting over the controller. Oh, we also need to include, so when I die and then he dies, mom gets a turn. Like we all hated the dog and duck hunt, right? It's like we shared all that. My dad still like pulls out a phone and will play a solitaire on his phone. He's not all about like super intense gaming, but my mom and I will host Tetris tournaments. And now my daughter is starting to hang playing Tetris. Like that's 3 generations of gamers, and we've been playing Tetris since it was invented. It was like one of the first video games like I really got into, and my mom would not go light. She would smack the crap out of me because we didn't have two-player Tetris back then. It would just we would keep track of what our high scores were. So like I jump in, get it's like, oh yeah, I just got like 200 lines, and she'd be like, well, here's 5. Like, oh my god. So I didn't realize like how outside the norm that kind of behavior was until I would do things. I'm sitting next to some parents and they're complaining about the games that their kids play because like they're constantly asking for microtransactions and Roblox bucks and oh, I have this Sonic Racer game on my phone and he runs out of rings, so he needs to buy more rings and gems and mission packs and skins. I'm like, okay, so you're on an iPhone. What if you, instead of spending money sort of haphazardly, what if you got Apple Arcade and then your kids wouldn't be subjected to ads and they wouldn't be subjected to microtransactions, and that would just sort of make the game more fun. Or hey, one of the games your kid's playing is actually on Netflix. Don't you subscribe for Netflix? Yeah. Do you have Netflix on your phone right now? Yeah. Okay, well, push the little button that says games. You're complaining about them in like a Candy Crush, but your daughter would probably love the game Knittens, which is just like Candy Crush, but instead of candy, it's little balls of yarn, and you get little balls of yarn to make cute outfits for your kittens. And the Netflix version of that game eliminates all of the other microtransactions. They cannot spend another dime on it. Oh, I don't know if my daughter would like that. And she's put so much into her run on Candy Crush and she wouldn't want to start over. And like, what are you doing? The kid's 9. Shut up. There's no continuity on Candy Crush. Give her Knittens. But of course, that never happens. And then they just keep complaining that her kid's racking up like $20 a month on stupid little app in-app purchases in these kinds of games. I don't understand it. I don't at all. But I showed one dad. I was like, yeah, you have Netflix. Get TMNT Shredder's Revenge. You're already paying for TMNT Shredder's Revenge. That is an amazing game. You can play it with your kid. Go do it. Oh, yeah, maybe I'll look at. Don't. I'm sitting here with you. I'm going to install it on your phone now. Just do it. You can lead a horse to water. It's pretty great. From Team Vry, my dad's side of the family was all athletes and coaches, save for a handful of cousins who I could spend weekends with on the Famicom when they're not out for basketball practice. And so my dad's side of the family, especially, lots of athlete cousins, but man, were those nerds ahead of the curve. My cousin Joe, we went to go visit him for Christmas one year. I was so chuffed because like I had finally gotten a Game Boy, and it was like a scene out of The Wizard, right? He puts on the power glove and it's so bad. I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on my Game Boy. I'm playing Tetris on my Game Boy. And he goes, hold on, check this out. And he pulls out a flight case and he opens it. And inside is an Atari Lynx. And he's got Altered Beasts on his Atari Lynx. And like blew my mind. And of course, my dad's side of the family, all about like basketball. I have a cousin who was a D1 volleyball player. He's like an incredible athlete, but we were nerds. And the grown-ups would play. Like I'd see like my uncle like pick up the guitar. I don't know what I'm doing with this thing, but he's like actually doing stuff. But he's trying to make sure, oh, I'm not doing like the kids' games and stuff. And you're like, no, we're nerds. So we're totally nerds. It's so great. Tanmay, TMNT is fun. Hollow Knight community port for Android is cool too. You know what I need to try? I never really got super deep into Hollow Knight. But that's another one. I bet you playing it on a phone would probably appeal to me more than like it's not a game I think I would fire up on a TV. There are some games like Alan Wake I need to play on a bigger TV in a comfortable seated position. It's not a game I'm going to fire up on my Steam Deck. It's not a game I would want to play on a phone. It's a game I kind of need to invest time in. Control also was that way for me too. I can play it on mobile devices. I hate playing it on mobile devices. I bet you something like Hollow Knight I would enjoy a lot better. Like playing it on something mobile. Again, it's something I can jump into for a 10-minute session, jump out of. I think I would like that better. Ooh, Skizrikazwikazol. 5 favorite Game Boy games of all time. Number 1 is obviously Tetris. I burned the most amount of time on Tetris, but the game that it convinced me I needed to get a Game Boy was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I liked Dr. Mario a lot. I really don't like modern versions of like Puyo Puyo, like those like pill swapping where you've got to like line up different colors and kind of eliminate colors based on those. I really don't like Puyo Puyo, but for some reason Dr. Mario really clicked. I can't remember what it was called, but the Legend of Zelda game I played a ton of. Man, those are the ones that are just kind of popping up in my head. I have a top 4 for you. I don't want to hang the rest of the podcast trying to think about all the other games I played on Game Boy. But Tetris, excuse me, Tetris was always big in our household. And just like in the Tetris movie, he says like, "Oh, if you want to sell a bunch of Game Boys to kids, bundle it with Mario. If you want to sell a bunch of Game Boys to everybody, bundle it with Tetris." That was true. Tetris on Game Boy, that was legit in our household. We've played Tetris on every single viable platform for Tetris. So, it's pretty great. All right, let's get into some gadget block here, and I'm not too far behind. I'm gonna take a little sip of water here, but we're gonna jump back in and chat some Vivo news, some Poco news, some Moto news, maybe even some other phone companies that don't end in O. Vivo, Poco, Moto, go! Let our powers combine. Oh, some of these are great. Sorry, this is Strizik Wikazal. I have played Ori and the Blind Forest both on Steam Deck and PC, and the bigger screen, the prettier and better the game. Team Vry, I still remember grinding away on Pokemon Blue without all the quality of life features of today. I've never gotten into Pokemon. I've played a lot of old Pokemon, and it just wasn't my jam. I've really always kind of better appreciated like shooters, rail shooters, twin stick shooters, platformers, things like that. I just never got good. I think maybe that's what held me back on Pokemon. From Donald Day, I'm a 74-year-old gamer. I'd rather play games than listen to my peers lamenting the past. I'm hoping that that's a trend that continues as I get older too, because just the social dynamic, like sorry, I know we're gonna talk about Vivo. There's a really cool leak or new piece of news from Vivo, but I have to point this out. I was just talking about how I like to sit with my daughter, and I don't like watching her do Minecraft, but I like spending time with my daughter, and she likes that too. She kind of bristles because I make her play other kinds of games. But as a family, when it's Marie, Lex, and I, we kind of like little kart and arcadey racers. We don't play anything serious. And honestly, the most serious racing game I play is Grid. Grid Legends is like at that crossroads of silly, goofy, fun arcadey racing with some design elements that make it feel a little more legit. It is not a serious racing game. But for us, we like if it's like Horizon Chase, it looks like a modern version of like California Dreamin'. It is a cartoony arcadey racer. But I've started getting her a bit more into kart racers, and we really like the Sonic Team Sonic Racing, so that we can all be on the same team. And then we also like Cross Worlds, the newest Sonic racer. It's a lot of fun. My daughter would get super frustrated because it didn't matter what track we were on, even if we'd never raced that track before. I could genuinely outperform her, right? I'm racing it blind, but I would still come in ahead of her. So she started figuring out not just the power ups, but things like drifting. And it's blowing her mind. Oh, I'm about to go around this curve. Instead of just driving around this curve, I can tap the brake, slide, and then as I'm coming out of the curve, this little bar has filled up. And then when I release, it gives me a little speed boost. So a little more than a week ago, we were just kind of farting around. We didn't have a movie to watch. It was kind of later in the evening. We didn't want to get too involved in like a new show or a movie or something. I was like, hey, let's just fire up a game. So we fire up Crossworlds, and she starts showing off because it used to be pretty consistent. It would be me, Marie, and Lex. And sometimes I'd be like in second, Marie would be in like eighth, and then Lex would be dead last. It was just kind of like she was just happy if she finished the track before the game shut the track off. Because after a point, you're in last place and you're still way in last place, the game will eventually just go, nah, we're moving on. This girl starts drifting like crazy, and suddenly it's me in first, Lex in third, Marie in eighth. And Marie's now starting to get frustrated, like, what's going on? And like trying to call out Lex, like, well, do you have like auto steering enabled? Are you really doing this? And you're like, oh my God. Nope, sorry, babe. Lex got good. It's so much fun. Some other really, really, really good ones here. From Antonio Cunningham. I was so addicted to Pokemon Red and Blue, but when I learned there was more than 150, I was done because I could never trust them again. JGJ, we need an escape from the mobile duopoly. Maybe we need more than Graphene OS. We're going to be talking about that coming soon. I just wanted to foreshadow. Arthur Lee Brown, am I too late for the Samsung Apple bashing? Well, we're just getting started. Bomberman Game Boy is the king. I did like Bomberman. Maybe I'll put that in as my number 5. I really did like Bomberman. Oh, Team Fry. Oh my God, Juan, I have Grid Legends on my Xbox, Mac, tablet, and Switch. I love it. I love it. The full motion video cutscenes, you can race with damage, or maybe you just want to turn it off and play bumper cars. Like, Grid Legends is not a great racer, but it is so much fun and it's so corny. And I love the main mission, Grid Legends, you're going through and like there's the storyline you can drive through, and it is so hilarious. I love it. It's great. People debating, is it Pokemon? I don't know. You will all have to figure that out. Enrico Man 17, losing to your kid is the end. I am happy in those moments, like here is the baton, and now the future belongs to you, child. It was just kind of cute because Marie is not super competitive. She's not like super hardcore into gaming. But that was like one thing that she kind of had, like, yeah, your mom plays games. I can hang. I can take you down. And then Lex just started slapping her around. And she took it kind of personal. So I'm sorry. I know I'm going to get on with the podcast, but the thing I'm crazy curious about, we haven't done a family video game night since we did Sonic Cross Worlds. And Lex put in a stellar performance, crushing Marie. Marie holds back when we play Tetris. This is one of those things. I talk a lot about Tetris, how meaningful Tetris is to me. During the scariest part of the pandemic, I genuinely believe that Tetris helped save my marriage. Marie and I were both in really dark places. We were really scared about the news that was coming out. And we started this. I don't know how it started. It was very organic and it just happened to work once. So we kept doing it. But we get to the end of the night just at each other's throats, sad, angry, afraid. And one night I'm messing around on the PlayStation and I fire up Puyo Puyo Tetris and I poured the most meager amount of a really nice bourbon. And Marie just sits by me and we're mad at each other and we're grumpy, and she takes a little sip. She picks up a controller and I just demolish her in Puyo Puyo Tetris. Like, it is less than a minute and I filled her lanes up with junk and she's dead. And she's like mad at me. And so I give her a couple tips and I give her like some strategies that I like to work. And I explain why my strategy can often fail. And I play her again, almost the exact same result. And then by the end of that night, she was never close to giving me a challenge, but she wasn't dying instantly. We'd shared 2 fingers of bourbon and we played Tetris until we couldn't see straight. And we weren't happy, but we were able to just go to bed. We started playing Tetris almost every single night. End of the day, we poured just a teeny little bit of bourbon. Fancy bourbon's expensive. And we'd play Tetris till our eyes had no moisture left. And Marie got to a point where she doesn't beat me often, but she can see, like, when I'm trying to get a little fancy, she can like send, she can strategize, and she can play fast. She can build really quickly. Because in a competitive Tetris, it's not just can you send a line or clear out a line. The more Tetrises you can stack, the more you can kill, the faster you can kill your opponent. So when it's just her and I, she does not hold back. It is adorable because when she plays my siblings, I can see she's going training wheels on these kids. Like, no. My brother plays video games. He still plays video games today. He loves games like Hades. You should go break my brother. Don't go soft. Crush him. So now I'm curious. Now I'm really curious. Lex just demolished Marie in Sonic Cross Worlds. Is my wife gonna hold back when they play Tetris, or is she gonna assert her gaming dominance over my daughter? I'm waiting with bated breath. Anyway, let's get into some proper phone news now. Oh, Jonathan Blade, I love it. My son and I played Street Fighter. Now that he is an adult, we still play Street Fighter. I love it so much, man. That's so good. Oh, Arthur Lee Brown. Video games and alcohol, the best way to fix every marriage. I can't express, like, there's just something about Tetris, something about the psychology, the flow state. You go somewhere else, but your body and brain are still operating at the limits of your cognition. It is such a wonderful way to find flow state. And it was almost like we could let our brains work out the day in the background while we just like tried to murder each other in Tetris. And Puyo Puyo Tetris is garish and annoying and vibrant and colorful and loud. And it just kind of worked. I really don't think we would have come out of the other side of the pandemic as healthy if we hadn't made that a semi-regular nightly tradition of just grinding Tetris until our brains exploded. No other game held both of us. Like, I tried to show her more adventure and combat and platforming games. She wanted to play more retro stuff. And we both kind of landed on Puyo Puyo Tetris. And boy, howdy, we went hard. Okay, so Vivo. So I am wrapping up my longer term look. I spent the summer with the Vivo X300 Ultra. I cannot tell you how much I love this phone. I'm going to make a 20-minute video telling you about how much I love this phone. I just shared my daughter's assessments for softball. I was so happy. I was shooting 4K 120 from the Vivo because I got beautiful slow motion 4K footage of her fielding at shortstop and running through this grounder and transferring with a perfect throw down to first base. And it's because this phone has those capabilities, I could really rise to the occasion. Shooting that on a Vivo is so much easier than trying to shoot it on a Pixel or a Samsung or an Apple. Stupid things like locking in frame rate, locking in resolution, and being able to manually control focus while athletes are playing at full speed. Chef's kiss. So you can imagine my anxiety because, man, I am still just finishing up the Vivo X300 Ultra, and wouldn't you know it, the Vivo X500 is right around the corner. So this is coming by way of Siddharth over at GSM Arena. Vivo X500 series confirmed to launch in September. I have not gotten any confirmation from Vivo. I don't know if I'll get to review one of these, and I'm very anxious that the release schedule for these phones is going to be a lot more limited. I mean, the rumors that we pointed to last week that we might not be getting Ultras outside of China, which means we'll have to buy and import Ultra phones for Vivo and Xiaomi and Oppo next year, if they're even made. One of the rumors was Xiaomi just might bounce on the Ultra entirely. There just won't be a Xiaomi Ultra next year, which would break my heart. These are the bleeding edge of photography in mobile devices, and they've never gotten the proper respect that they deserve as being camera-focused solutions. But when we're checking out what Vivo might have to offer, it's looking like we'll get an X500, an X500 Pro, and an X500 Pro Max. So my guess, and someone tell me if you vibe with this or if you think something else is going to happen. My guess is the Vivo X500 Pro Max is going to be the proper replacement for the Vivo X300 Pro. So the Pro Max will be the similar bigger phone. The X500 Pro will be like the X300, and then the X500 non-Pro will be more like the Vivo FE. Sorry, I know that was a lot of Vivo's X's numbers, Pros, Pro Maxes, and FEs. But I'm assuming the Pro Max will replace the Pro, the X500 Pro will replace the X300, and the X500 will replace the X300 FE. That's my guess. I think we're just going to see all the phones kind of stick down a tier, even though the names sound more impressive. But we also got an official this image coming from Vivo. I believe it was a Chinese tease, but that this has been translated into English. Global debut of Zeiss Ultra Dynamic Main Camera. The Blueprint Light Guard 900 sensor with 17 exposure values, I think is what they're going for. 17 EV ultra high dynamic range. So a much higher range of a much larger dynamic range. Industry leading 3-degree large angle optical image stabilization. This one is also kind of important. There was a massive difference on LG back in the day when they went to a 2-degree optical image stabilization. Now, on its own, that looks wobblier. So I think it was the LG V30, but someone please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we went to the wider angle image stabilization. So you hold the camera, and as you move the phone body, the lens will wiggle to compensate for the movement, but it can only go so far before that movement has maxed out, and then you're still moving the phone. So it doesn't sound like a lot going from like a 2-degree to a 3-degree, but considering how these lens and optics move, that is a massive difference in the field of view and the compensation for the hand movement holding the whole phone. The OIS, I don't think will look better if we were just looking at optical image stabilization. But the modern phone is almost always a hybrid of lens movement and software cropping and rescaling to fit pieces back together. So improving the optical image stabilization should give better data to the software stabilization, the EIS, the electronic image stabilization, and the two in tandem should make this look even smoother, which is already a significant benefit. Like the video quality that you get on a Vivo is eerily smooth. And it's even crazier when you look at something like you're framing a shot and you can hold still and you can kind of see in the preview window, it looks like you're on a tripod. But our hands are not perfectly still and steady, but the viewfinder just looks like it's locked in. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other one, this got shared on the Patreon chat. And who was it that shared it on the patron chat? Bradley Larcher was like, boy, howdy, whoa. Let me get back to Vivo. There we go. That the new capabilities, video 4K 120 HDR, and if you go non-HDR, this thing is going to hit 4K 240. So I was just talking about Lexi's softball assessments. There's a video you can see on the Patreon live chat, patreon.com/somegadgetguy. This is the kind of stuff I like to shoot for my family. It's not too identifying. It's not like close-ups of her face, but I'm across a softball field. So like some of her fielding assessments were shooting. They did a machine shot, deep fly ball that they have to catch up in the air. So I'm back on the bleachers shooting video of her occupying most of the frame from across a softball field. So I was doing a 2x zoom from the 400 millimeter lens attachment on the Vivo X300 Ultra, shooting at 4K 120, And that meant I could put out a video at 4K 30, and it is 1/4 4K resolution of this ball just beautifully slowly landing in her glove, transfer, and she's ready to throw again. And with the X500, I should now be able to do an 8 times slow motion at 4K resolution. The Pixel 11 Pro XL just got better 4K 60 with HDR. It's Google's are the bestest cameras, y'all. Now you can finally do 4K 60 with HDRs in it. We got a Vivo coming out in a month. I need people to see when I say, oh, the American phone companies, Apple, Google, Samsung, the phones that are sold here in USA carriers are roughly 2 generations behind the rest of the world. That is not me having a feeling. I don't feel they're 2 generations behind. The Pixel 11 Pro is the new phone that cannot keep up with the phones that were released earlier in the year, and the next version of this is going to be out in a month. The Pixel 11 Pro is going to have to do battle with the next generation of Vivo devices coming out over the next year through most of 2027. And it can't hang with the phones that were released back in 2025. I don't know what to call that other than the Pixel is at least 2 generations behind in these kinds of camera capabilities. So anyway, Rob Aarons is saying, you are correct. The Pro Max replaces the X300 Pro. From Fake Frames Hater, how does the Dimensity 9600 compare to the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5? Is around the same CPU performance with better GPU performance? I don't know yet. I think we're supposed to be getting some insights on Dimensity soon, because if the next generation of these phones are coming out, you would expect that Qualcomm and MediaTek are going to start talking about the chips that are going to be going into these kinds of phones. We just don't know. I don't know what the core configuration is going to look like. I don't know what the GPU specs are supposed to look like. I'm not expecting anything too crazy in terms of traditional compute performance. If we can get the traditional like 10% uplift here, maybe a 15% uplift there, I think that'd be great. But really what I'm hoping, I've been saying this since the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. I would really love a year where, again, we can focus on all of the improvements to the AI and the NPU. I'd love to see radio performances and upgrades, Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6 across the board, make that much more standardized and easier for consumers. But if we're going to go down to a 2 nanometer chip, that is a 50% reduction in die size for the CPU and GPU. Man, hang at like the same performance level as an 8 Elite Gen 5 and use that die shrink for power. You should be able to get a significant power reduction out of that die shrink while keeping a similar performance level. Even if we sacrificed the yearly 10% uplift on CPU performance, I think it would be better for everybody to have the Dimensity 9500 is a laptop grade chip, and just kind of coast it a little, but with a much better power envelope, better battery life, lower thermals. The chip doesn't have to heat up as much. And then we can get these incredible capabilities in the new ISP and the new MPU and the new radios and all that. I think that would be beautiful. I would love to see that kind of efficiency scale, because I don't think Apple can make the same kind of jump on the A series chips this generation. I think we'd actually catch Apple in some really meaningful ways, kind of hanging like that. Let me get a drink of water here. And then we'll move on to Moto. Oh, Michael C2, I love it. Every time I'm critical of the Pixel, people assume I'm some Samsung or Apple shill, which is like the opposite of reality. If anything, I was more inclined to defend Pixel up until 2 years ago. Right there with me, buddy. I loved it because, like, in one of the criticisms I got on Reddit, someone did pop up as a reply and was like, this is kind of crazy because Juan was an insufferable Pixel fanboy like 3 years ago. And I was. And then they're like, so for him to make a video criticizing the Pixel 10 is a really big deal. And then everyone just kind of pooped all over that comment because it's more important to say that they don't like me than to look at anything that I had to offer. So, moving on. I'm not going to go too deep in this. I got a public confirmation from the developers at Graphene that we were still on track for Graphene and Motorola coming Q1 2027. I did not realize that was actually kind of a scoop. I probably should have written an article about that. I just thought this was like, oh yeah, this is just their timeline. I'm sure they've announced this before. Now these other articles are popping up like, whoa, Graphene and Moto. So here's one from Ashley Bellin. Ryan Whitman over at Ars Technica. Motorola's Graphene OS phones will launch in 2027, priced higher than the Pixels, which they should be priced higher than the Pixels because they're probably better phones than the Pixel. You see, it's worth spending more on better hardware. It's not, oh, I got a Pixel because I got it for like $300 and a half a ham sandwich on a crazy sale. That's what a Pixel is worth. So when a better phone comes out and it's priced higher, you should want to pay for the better phone at a higher price because that's how you continue to get better phones. You see, it's like a form of math. But then followed up also, there was another article linking some of the social media posts. Graphene OS confirms 2027 launch on Motorola phones. This is Notebook Check, written up by Yuval. And in the article, they've got screen grabs. I believe these are these tweets or are these Blue Ski posts? I genuinely don't know. Oh, no, at grapheneos.social. So I think these are Mastodon posts. The initial devices with Graphene support should be available in 2027. The initial devices will be flagships, so they'll be higher-end hardware than Pixels at a higher price. Lower-end devices will take more time to meet our requirements since the updates and security features aren't as good. It's mostly due to how Qualcomm handles it. The latest Snapdragon flagships have the best security features. We'll also need Motorola to start paying them for longer updates below flagships. For Motorola devices, we plan to prepare our releases early and have everything ready for major Android updates at launch. We should be able to simply push the code to our own repositories for major Android releases. We'll need to host all the AOSP Git repositories ourselves. So, for people who have been critical of Motorola's update policies, I'm hoping in the medium term, I don't think anything is going to change significantly right away. But I'm hoping in the medium term, this becomes a benefit for Motorola devices, especially more expensive Motorola devices, just getting better and longer support windows in general. I think Motorola's strategy is better than most other Android manufacturers. I really like that they don't do OTAs for all the little updates that happen across your whole phone. When a camera module needs a firmware update, when a GPU needs a firmware update, when the radios need firmware updates, when your desktop operating mode needs an update. Why wait for the OTA if all of those little packages can be updated individually through individual app updates on Google Play? HTC did this in the past. Motorola is continuing to do this now. It is the better way to make sure your phone is actually up to date and all of the components on the phone are being supported. It is better to do it that way. Instead, you're waiting for like this massive OTA to come out every other month. Instead, when Ready For is ready, I know it's not called that anymore, but when your desktop mode is ready to be updated, just update it. When your camera is ready to be updated, why are you waiting for a bi-monthly OTA? Just update it. It's an app and software and hardware that talk to each other. Just update those parts. It's better. But my problem with Motorola is while I feel that style of support is superior, obviously their windows of support are inferior. So the length of time that we should expect for operating system updates and for security patches is insufficient when we're talking about the most expensive devices that a company can sell. That's still where I'd hope to see some improvement. But for them to do business with graphene and play by graphene's rules, hopefully that means we're going to see Motorola just paying Qualcomm for the longer support necessary, and that having a tangential impact, an improvement on the situation for Motorola updates. I genuinely don't care if a phone gets 7 operating system updates. I actually think that's kind of stupid, but it's criminal that our phones don't get at least 7 years of security patches. That should be against the law. A phone should be in service and a reliable piece of computing technology with the bare minimum. We're just going to fix the problems in Android for 10 years. Just like Chromebooks, just like any other kind of compute platform, I should be able to pick up a phone. It's stuck on Android 10, but I can still get another 5 years of security patches. That should be a lot more common. It's not common at all. That should be accessible in any way. So, well, we'll have to see. Moving right along. Footloose and Fancy Free. Oh, Brian Glaze launching with graphene. I did not know this. Yeah, the nerd community has been making a lot of noise about it, which to me is kind of funny because a lot of the people that came to my video to defend the Pixel were, oh, well, you just don't get it. People really, if you care about security, you need to buy a Pixel because then you can use graphene. And immediately I would retort, so are you going to stick with Pixel hardware when graphene comes out on Motorola? And not a lot of people would react or reply to that. It's like you're sitting here defending the phone manufacturer to use it not how the phone manufacturer is trying to use it. And Google is trying to make graphene more difficult to deploy for Pixels and lag behind other updates. Would you stick with the Pixel then? Wouldn't you want to go with the phone that has better hardware? Just saying. Moving right along. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time. Someone was asking about the Samsung bashing. I am gonna point this out because we now have conflicting leaks on CAD designs for the S27 Ultra. So one of the leaks and the rumors that we saw was that the S27 Ultra was going to start looking more like the Pixel, have that camera visor or that camera bar in the top quarter of the phone. A new leak has come out, another CAD design, that maybe instead of doing the Pixel clone, the new Galaxy S27 Ultra will instead look like an iPhone. Almost exactly like an iPhone Pro Max. And they're ripping off this large rectangle space that we first saw. Someone please correct me. I said iQOO once, and someone said another phone manufacturer, was it Poco? I swear it was like the iQOO 10, or maybe it was the iQOO 9. I don't remember. But it had this beautiful design accent where the cameras were vertical on one side of the phone, but the entire phone had a rectangular space that went the entire width, not the entire width, but almost the entire width of the phone. And it did, it was raised just enough that it did kind of help that waka waka table rattle. Like your phone's lying flat on a table, but the camera sensors cause it to rock whenever you touch the screen. I want to say it was iQOO first, but someone please tell me if you know, or you can link me a phone that did it before the iQOO. So of course that design accent went away until Apple invented a large rectangular cutout on the back of a phone again. And so I'm calling this credible because my big argument with Samsung and Google recently has been they are desperate and thirsty to copy everything Apple. They want to slow down the rate of innovation, just like Apple executives communicated with each other that they were trying to get their customers to pay more for devices with poorer technology. They actually talked about how they could regress the technology in the iPhone because it was already too good, you see. Their customers don't even know how good this stuff is. We need to stop putting better stuff in iPhones and find a way to regress because our idiot customers won't even know the difference anyway. They maybe didn't say that verbatim. That's not a quote. I'm just filling in some of the attitude that Apple executives would use in discussing how they really feel about their most loyal customers. But since we got that disclosure from the Department of Justice, and again, this isn't me making up, I feel Apple's doing this. This was disclosed in a lawsuit against Apple from the DOJ regarding anti-competitive business practices. Since we saw that, though, I feel the trend for Google and Samsung has been almost the same. While Vivo, Xiaomi, Oppo, Honor, Huawei are pushing the envelope on new technologies, new camera tech, new capabilities, new skins, new software, better interoperability, being able to sync data between computers and tablets and phones in really exciting ways, Google and Samsung have both gone, but what if our phones were more like iPhone? And we're seeing it play out over and over and over again, starting with the Pixel 9 Pro is almost a feature frame shape identical to the iPhone Pro. A lot of Samsung devices feel really iPhone-y, and one of the main only benefits of this design language playing out is that it makes Google and Samsung devices more compatible with Apple accessories. So like MagSafe chargers and stick-on wallets. Like I hold up my Pixel here. So this is a Pixel case from Peak Design, and it uses this little universal tripod stick-on thing. So Peak Design has their own mounting system in their cases. I love Peak Design gear. But to make this sort of broadly universally compatible, this fold-out tripod was built first for the iPhone, and how wouldn't you know it, it almost perfectly lines up in the exact same way on the Pixel Pro. Well, as long as you've got magnets on the back, here's my OnePlus 15, and I can stick this to the OnePlus 15, but now the tripod is almost flush with the bottom edge, because the OnePlus 15 is not built to be an almost exact clone of the dimensions and magnets and capabilities of the iPhone. And reviewers will say, oh, but that's not good. Needs to be more like iPhone. I was on a business trip. TK and I were talking to the editor-in-chief of a Android publication that gets lots of readership and is focused on Android news and Android reviews. And TK was complaining about the Pixel 9 feeling exactly like his iPhone. And the editor went, yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm so happy. It's almost exactly the same. It's going to be better for people. In what world? And guess what that guy's daily driver phone really was, while being the editor-in-chief of an Android publication. And while we were on a business trip, I believe we were covering a chip manufacturer that does not make chips for Apple products. And that's kind of the perspective that you're going to get on a Western produced Android enthusiast blog website publication. So I don't know which one's going to happen. Regardless, the main feature that is coming to Samsung phones, especially the Samsung Ultra for the Galaxy S27, the S27 Ultra is just going to be better compatible with Apple accessories. I'm calling it now. We're going to hear that there's like, oh, well, they improved the telephoto sensor and they made it so much bigger, just like they said with the Pixel, and it's not so much bigger. They might do the, oh, now you can do 4K 120 and do this with HDRs and all these things are amazing new camera capabilities. And they'll be like the most minor feature improvements when you really put the phone in your hand. I guarantee you, the biggest fundamental change for either of these mock-ups, if it's this Galaxy S27 Ultra CAD design that looks almost exactly like an iPhone Pro Max, or if it's the CAD design that looks almost exactly like a Pixel Pro, the only benefit for that is it's going to play nicer with Apple accessories. You want a little Apple slap-on wallet? Well, now you can use it with your Galaxy. You want to use a MagSafe charger? Now it's easier to use with your Galaxy. That's it. Samsung has been creatively bankrupt for years now. The actual functionality of the product is probably going to be very similar to where we've been since the Galaxy S20 Ultra and the Note, the last years of the Note. It's still a Note. If it has the S Pen, it's a Note. We're completely stuck. While I can hold up a phone like the Vivo X300 Ultra, which has a whole system built around it. Look at how I cannot use MagSafe accessories with the X300 Ultra, because I've got this case that's reinforced for things like putting on crazy long zoom lenses and putting on a camera grip attachment. So my fingers are right in this middle space where you would also want to have like a tripod mount that's not MagSafe compatible. It's not, it doesn't have Apple magnets. We don't want to use this phone. It's not like an iPhone. And Samsung is running headlong into irrelevance. Why buy the Why buy the iPhone clone, the iPhoney Samsung, when you can just buy an iPhone? If I wanted to buy an iPhone, I would buy an iPhone. When I want to hold up a phone, people ask me what phones I use. That is definitely not an iPhone. This is definitely not a Google, a Samsung, or an Apple. And then I show people the photos and the videos that I get, and they seem, I don't know, they seem pretty impressed. So, yeah, it's pretty great. I think we just need to say it's iPhoney. It's just going to be super iPhoney. So Hassam, I'm curious to see this. Hassam, this is Hassam 6358. They will also probably add a silicon battery. Whatever battery tech they go for, who in this chat genuinely believes that the next generation of Samsung phones is going to have a significant battery capacity improvement? Reminding you that the Pixel 11 Pro has a smaller battery than the Pixel 10 Pro. Anyone? I believe Samsung will use a newer battery technology, help improve some of the thermals on their current 60-watt charging for the Ultra, but I don't think they're going to go with a significantly larger battery. It might be like 100 milliamp hour difference, so they can say, oh, we're putting in a bigger battery, but it's like the bare minimum. And I don't believe those kinds of improvements are going to come to the S27 or the S27 Plus. I think they'll only go to the Ultra, further increasing the pain points on the S27 to encourage people to buy the more expensive phone. That's my guess. I bet you they're going to really ratchet down hard and make the S27 even further behind the competition so that you'll want to go up and buy the more expensive phone. Hold on, let's see. From Zimfat, I don't get why MagSafe is a big deal. 99.99% of people use phone cases that are MagSafe compatible already. I think it's a reviewer thing. I had another reviewer, someone I really like. He saw my, I want to say it was back in the Pixel 8. He was like, you coward, you're using a case. And you're like, but why should we be proud of getting so many phones that we don't care if we break one? I know I get a little precious about this stuff, and I run a flippin' phone museum of e-waste and degrading batteries. It's probably a massive fire hazard, but like, I want to take care of them. I want them to perform well, and I want to show how they perform over time. I don't want to take $1,000 phone and then, do something dumb, slip, drop, crack the back of it, break the screen. Like, I want to try and use it and keep it nice. Zimfat is saying, I think Samsung will go 5,500 to 6,000 milliamp hour. Maybe. I want to say it's probably going to be something more like 5,800, because then they can claim it's a percentage increase. It's like a 10% improvement over the previous. And you're like, yeah, that's not a very big number. I have a phone on my desk right now that I can't hold up that I'm not entirely sure I can fly with. I honestly, like, I'd try and sneak it. I just think that's way better. Oh, see, Andrew, exactly. Andrew, I think just beat me to the punch here. No person except phone reviewers care when a phone is missing MagSafe, because guess what? Everyone will just slap a case on it that adds MagSafe. So I love the OnePlus case, has magnets built in. Done. And I can use it with my Peak Design accessories, because I know they're Apple MagSafe compatible, but I love being able to swap systems with magnets. That's pretty cool. I have a little wallet. I dig it. I never use charging accessories. It's tripod and wallet. Those are the things I like having on my phone. I live out of my Vivo X300 Pro, and you might notice I added a little ring. You see this circle on the back of my phone case? It's probably not perfectly aligned for the coils to do wireless charging. And guess who doesn't care? The person who's living in this phone. And I don't know if you'll be able to see. Let me see if I can get my camera to focus. Can you see how messed up that ring is on the back of my Vivo? Because I really use this Vivo. This Vivo is a daily driver, my main SIM card, and you can see I have scratched away a significant amount of the little paint on that magnet ring. Not because I'm using a ton of MagSafe chargers, but because this is constantly in my pocket. I'm using this as a wear indicator for how I've really used this phone. I love this phone. It's real good. Real good. The ability to add a MagSafe compatible. Oh, the other thing that I use it for are the little phone coolers. So I have extra magnet and ring attachments for one of these little thermoelectric coolers. So I can slap this on the back of a phone. So like without the magnet attachments, here's my OnePlus, and it sticks right on there, and it's decently powerful magnets. Like it holds the whole weight of the phone. And now when I'm playing Grid Legends, I'm playing it on this. And if I want to keep 100 frame per second frame rates in Grid, I can also add active cooling to the back of my OnePlus. It's great. I love it. Love it. Don't care at all that the magnets weren't in the phone. Yeah, Mr. Maug, it's hard being a techie nowadays when brands are dying for not being Sam Apple. The scale is ridiculous. It's so frustrating. And it's based on marketing, because those companies spend the most on marketing. Command control device. But Juan, think of the views. Oh gosh, my Pixel 11 Pro broke. And then I can do like a wacky thumbnail face, like, huh? I put it in the slingshot and I flipped it into a brick wall. Who would have thunk it broke? I just can't bring myself to make that kind of bait. All right, I want to wrap this up because I was kind of surprised by this announcement. I did not get to spend any time this year with the Poco F8. The F series completely passed me by. I was stoked because I really liked what Poco did for the X line this year. I seem to only get Poco devices like every other year. I don't know like what that says about my relationship with Xiaomi. But the Poco F8 completely passed me by, but it wasn't that long ago. So to see a refresh coming right in, we got the official announcement, Poco F9 series, in 7 days. So next week, there will be a Poco F9. And we've already got a look at the device. It looks very similar to the Poco F8. It's got that partnership with Bose, that big speaker that a handful of Xiaomi devices are sporting. It's got the rectangular window that does not look like an iPhone rear rectangle housing because it's got a big speaker built into the back. And then these colors, we got Aura Green and Dark Cherry are going to be sort of the new colors and flavors for the Poco F9. I don't know what to expect. There was another post here on GSM Arena written up by Vlad. Poco F9 Pro and Poco F9 Ultra are coming soon. It seems with the number of leaks about them increasing in the past week, now the Ultra appears to have run Geekbench 7, achieving a single-core score of 2,980 and a multi-core score of 10,030. 30. These numbers mean F all. Because it's Geekbench 7. I have no idea where in performance in relation to other phones that this might actually land. But it's looking like this is very similar crossover hardware to Redmi's. Is it the Redmi K series? Is like the Poco F series? I can't keep them all in my brain perfectly aligned, but I want to say it's the Redmi K100 is similar to the Poco F8. Someone tell me that I have that super wrong. But what I was thinking is like, okay, well, if it's the F9 Ultra, maybe this will be an early announcement for a Snapdragon, like a Snapdragon 8 Gen 6. But it seems like it's the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Great chip. I mean, that is a powerful chip to be putting into a phone. But I just, it doesn't seem like the F9 Ultra is going to be massively significantly different than the F8 Ultra. So to have them sort of release in the same year like that, this to me almost feels like a Poco F8s Ultra. But it's not an S or a T in the way that Xiaomi usually does S and T series phones. Again, it is really complicated in my brain, and I apologize because I know I'm rambling. But what are our thoughts here? I have always accused Xiaomi and Redmi and Poco of having these parts bin phones where every week we can hear of a new announcement, a new release, a new reveal, a new tease. And you've got like 4 series of Poco, you've got like 3 tiers of Xiaomi, I think you've got multiple tiers at Redmi. And then you go and you say like, oh, well, the speaker on the back, that means it's this Poco or this kind of Redmi, and you can look at these parts and maybe they changed out this one camera sensor, but the experience is like identical. And it is so much to keep track of. And I really feel it's like phone coverage through exhaustion. After a point, you just go like, I don't know, whatever the press release says, just say that's what's in the phone. And I'm really frustrated, like when you get a Xiaomi 17 and then the 17T, the Xiaomi 17 might be a better phone than the 17T. But one's newer, so it gets the headlines. It's the new product release. Is a consumer going to understand, well, this is the phone that just came out. Shouldn't I get the newest one? But you might have been able to get the older one on a slightly better sale because it's only like 3 months old, but it's a more powerful phone. How is any consumer supposed to be able to keep all that stuff straight? I don't get it. It's a lot. It's so much. And it's also one of the reasons like I'm actually kind of grateful I don't get every single Poco. It's like I would never be able to talk about anything else. But I did like, oh, it's over there on the other desk. I'm not going to get back up again. But I really liked getting to spend some time with the Poco X8. That was a pretty solid phone. Let me take a little drink of water and we can kind of catch up on some of these comments here. Oh, Mr. Maug. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Mr. Maug says, it's weird that with cars, it seems we're getting a resurgence of sedans and manual transmissions. But with phones, we can't get that with headphone jacks and SD card slots. Look at media. There's a whole crew of enthusiasts that are all about physical media now. If it's Blu-rays for movies or if it's vinyl for audio, you're going to hear all these people like, oh, I'm approaching my media with intentionality. Cool. You bought a thing, you want to hold on to it. You're tired of doing everything through streaming with intention because I'm better than you. You do things without intention. I do things with intentionality. But you're absolutely right. We're seeing enthusiast communities start looking back at what were good ideas that we left behind and let's see if we can resurrect them. And let's absolutely support those trends. I'm still anxious to see how the Clicks communicator might play out. Do I believe that's going to be an audiophile grade headphone listening experience? Not at all. But I want to support the practicality of having that jack back. And even if I just plug in some decent little earbuds, I'm sure it's going to be good enough. And that also contribute to, hey, maybe I just want to take a phone call on a corded headset instead of holding up a video call and like trying to manage speakerphone. I just keep my phone in my pocket, keep on my walk, and they'll be able to hear me, and I've got a cable. And that would work really well. I think that would be nice. Oh, some chatter about like iPhones. They discontinued the 16E. They discontinued the iPhone 14, which was $499 on Apple, brand new, and the SE3, which was $430. So the entry level iPhone went up like $220 overnight. The iPhone 14 base model was a better phone that they were selling for $500. The next day, the 16E was $650, had less cameras and less features and no MagSafe and blah, 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 blah. I don't know how else to point you to the evidence that the Department of Justice was correct in suing Apple executives for anti-consumer business practices. I look at it just literally in this last year. You had the iPhone Air replace the price point that would have been the iPhone 17 Plus. The iPhone 17 Plus would have had a larger battery and 2 camera sensors and 2 speakers. iPhone Air was literally half the phone at the same price. I don't like how else to express that to people. You were literally getting ripped off. Apple phones are already crazy expensive and with the healthiest profit margins built into them. And Apple is still like, well, I think we can squeeze more blood out of this stone. And by stone, I mean our idiot consumers. From Zimfad, the issue with the F9 Ultra is it's not a significant upgrade, but I think the F9 16 gigabyte version will be significantly more. I think anyone interested should get the F8 Ultra while it's $700. So I really can't put my thumb on where the F9 Ultra fits. Like, I'm looking at good performance, some fun features, some solid camera sensors. I think TK got to spend some time with some of the Pocos, and I saw some other coverage on the F8 Ultra. I didn't really follow it that closely, but it seemed like that's a really good bang for buck, living up to the reputation of a Poco F series as a higher performance model for the company. It's just kind of surprising to me that they would be so quickly reiterating on that design. So I don't know. And Andrea Vaca, I saw an F8 Ultra for €479 in Italy today. That sounds like a stupid good buy. Not a stupid adios, but like a really good purchasing situation. Like stupidly good to purchase a Poco sub $500 like that. Not any Poco, an F8 Ultra sub $500 sounds really good in my head. Snapdragon 8 Gen 5, decent camera sensors, fun novelty speaker, high refresh rate display, fast charging, decent battery capacity. I don't know, man. It's hard to look at that and then also look at like what a Pixel A series might cost and go, they're the same. I mean, that's better than the sale price for most Pixel 11 Pro XLs. And I think the F8 Ultra would be a better overall computer experience than the Pixel 11 Pro. I don't know. I'm going to have to reach out. I'm going to have to see, like, can I get my hands on a Poco F series? I just covered the X8. Can we maybe cover the F8? Or maybe the F9 if it's arriving in a week? That'd be pretty cool. I don't know. I'm being silly. From Zimfad, I get that the F9 Ultra will have a bigger battery than the F8 Ultra, but I wonder if the 1/1.3 on the F8 will actually be better than the F9's 200 megapixel smaller sensor plus 16 gigabytes of RAM price increase. Oh, you know what? That also could be part of it though. So maybe a part of this is just totally acknowledging that the market trends are going to cause price increases. So instead of announcing the F8 Ultra is going to get more expensive, they're calling it the F9 Ultra to kind of preserve just the psychology of it. because who could ever buy a Poco for more, right? So if the company comes out and says, hey, the phone that we already released at this price is going to get more expensive, I wonder if that's more damaging to the brand reputation than coming out with a new phone that's one number bigger and has 150 more megapixels on the camera. That's the phone you'll want to get. And that's why there's a price increase, is because the number by the battery got bigger and the number by the camera got bigger. So the price tag got bigger. I wonder if that's the psychology of it. You don't want to charge people more for the same phone, but you can't keep eating the RAM and storage price hikes. So you're going to pad other numbers that make it look bigger and more powerful. And that's why we get a Poco F9 instead of a price hike on the F8. It's a little cynical, but I kind of get it. That actually makes a lot more sense in my brain why we might see that kind of strategy play out. Sorry, Michael C2 was just commenting on people being super thirsty about the clicks to get all those views. From Andrea Vaca, where I live, moms get the cheapest stuff they can get away with, not iPhones. I got my mom a Poco X7 Pro 12256 for €200 last year. Oh, the X7 was pretty solid. That's actually a pretty good score. Again, I always bristle when we act like kids and parents and grandparents should have like the cheapest possible stuff, because it's the most punishing experience for the people that have the worst expectations on how technology should work. Like, you give your grandparents a phone with a Snapdragon 400 and like they tap on it and they swipe and they do crazy things because, they don't know how touchscreens work. And then we're surprised that they're clicking on every link and installing malware and just falling for all this stuff. And literally on those like dark patterns, you'll scroll through something, be about to click a button, and then the app will purposely move the buttons so you click on something else. Like, the lag matters. And I'm not saying you need to get your grandparents like a $1,500 phone, but like, what is this idea that you give them the garbage phone? They need something that performs a little better than that. And then it comes with the benefits of probably having better battery life and a louder speaker and a better screen so they can see things more easily, and better battery life because they're probably not going to charge something as consistently. I don't know. To me, it should be the other way. I feel like tech savvy people looking for a bargain can absolutely handle some of the stutters in performance and some of the disparity in performance. If we know, hey, this is $100 phone and I'm using it like a burner for the weekenders in case I mess up this phone, I don't care. I just need a basic communications platform. That's what this phone should be. My grandmother shouldn't suffer that experience. That's not how that should work. I know how to use that thing and I know what it can do, and I don't care if I break it. That's, I don't know. But anyway, what I'm saying is good job getting her into a phone that is at least a reasonably performing device with a decent amount of storage so that it's not total gut rot, and getting her a good deal on it. A $200 Poco X series is a very good deal for a mainstream kind of experience. Well done. Well done indeed. Looking at some other... From KG, what do you think of the Pixel 10a, a sweet spot price-wise, particularly with many good deals at the moment? The chipset befits its mid-range price point. I'm still putting Pixel A series on my list of recommendations, but I'm increasingly trying to push those people around me. When I recommend a Pixel A series, it's because I'm confident they're going to be looking at that phone, again, through some kind of carrier purchase. I don't think it's a very good deal if you're looking at MSRPs. I don't think any Pixel lives up to the scrutiny of Google's MSRP, what they put on their own products. But you should be able to walk into any carrier store and with a little savvy negotiating, walk out with a Pixel A series for free. You'll be paying for it in how you subscribe to their service. It's never for free. But if that's a phone you get on like a massive cost reduction, or you get it as like part of a, an incentive for signing up for a service, subsidizing the phone price or switching your line to another carrier, then that's where I feel like, yeah, it's acceptable to recommend a Pixel A. Increasingly, I'm just upset because we have fewer and fewer options for a more normal sized phone, a regular sized phone, a smaller phone size, and then something that performs decently well, gets great radio reception, has excellent battery life. I feel like one of the last versions of that was the Pixel 5 series. The Google experience on a Snapdragon 765, a mid-ranger chip, was beautiful. That chip was a high enough performance chip that the UI was a fluid and an expressive user interface. It performed very well, but it was also a very sipping electricity kind of chip. You got excellent battery life out of decent battery capacities. So for the Pixel 5 and the Pixel 5a, those were battery champs. And you could get them at reduced prices. They were not top of the line expensive. They had good camera features. They weren't top of the line, most expensive camera features. But again, it was the right price to performance. And even at full price, I still felt like they represented a reasonable purchase. Even better when you could get them on sales. I don't feel Tensor has aged as gracefully. I think like from the Pixel 5 on, Pixel 5, Pixel 5a, but onwards from there, it's just been a decrescendo, just a line going down of price to performance and what our expectations should be. So I still put Pixel 10a on the list, but I have to be very upfront. Don't expect the same kind of longevity. After a couple years, your battery life will probably tank. If you got the phone for free from your carrier, you're not going to be bothered by that. If you spent $499 on a Pixel 10a, you're probably going to be upset about that. Oh man, some folks talking about Google Voice. I really wish they would update Google Voice, maybe give us some better messaging, some RCS. That would be really sweet. Some really other funny comments there in there too. I don't know. I just saw the time and we should probably start wrapping this up. And I'm going to stop us from having another 2.5 hour podcast, 2 hour and 20-minute podcast. Boom. So, folks, there's a ton of stuff that's going to be coming to the channel. And I already teased this last week too, but I'm working with a couple companies and there are going to be some sponsored videos. Some products that I'm really interested to talk about is general lifestyle tech. I'm not taking money from any companies that are making phones or computers, but I am looking at just like, I always wanted Gadget Guy to be a broad tech conversation. And so we're going to be looking at some lifestyle gear, some home security systems, some fire prevention systems. I'm really excited to talk about that. And then I have an AI product, which I have not covered much AI on this channel. When it comes to things like the purpose of this is to be an AI thing. It's a piece of hardware that does the AI. We'll have to see how that plays out. But lots of stuff coming. Phone under embargo is right here, and I can't pick it up or show it to you, but I think you'll be interested in what this phone can do. And then I'm going to be jumping in with Pixel 11 Pro coverage, wrapping up Vivo X300 Ultra coverage. I still need to talk about the Titan. I finally caved and got a keyboard phone, a Titan, a Unihertz. And there's some really interesting stuff to talk about here. And a buddy of ours, one of the people on the private Discord, has written, he coded a new skin for squarer screened phones. We got to talk about that. Some really exciting stuff. So I want everybody out there to have an amazing week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I will catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Check out somegadgetguy.com for updates on public publishing. Check out patreon.com/somegadgetguy for supporting this project, getting all of the alerts and notifications so that you don't miss new stuff that's coming out. And I always greatly appreciate the people sharing subscribing, leaving comments, and reviewing podcasts on your favorite podcast services. Catch you back here next week. I love you all. Be safe. Take care. I'll see you again.